All right, I hope you are having a great Friday. I am gone today, so I'm taking you through the rest of the notes via this video. So follow along in the way that makes the most sense for you. This is what we did yesterday. So make sure that your notes match up from yesterday. Here's the problem that everybody did on their own. So all of this should already be done. And you should be starting on page 10. Page 10 is a two-step problem, but it is put in the solve strategy. So this solve strategy is what we were doing for our one-step equations the first day, but you can use it for two-step or multiple-step equations as well. You do not have to use this strategy if it doesn't work for you. If you like it, awesome. So I'm going to show you one problem doing this. Expectation is that you are listening to this video and then writing the work down in the manner that makes sense for you. Pause as you need to, etc. Okay. Izzy and his family planted a 10-foot tall tree in their yard. They are told it will grow 4 feet each year. Izzy wants to know when the tree will reach a height of 100 feet tall. Write an equation to determine the number of years y it will take for the tree to reach 100 feet. Okay, so with the solve strategy, first we need to circle the key numbers. So that's pretty simple. I mean, I just see, okay, there's a number here. Hold on, I'm going to redo that. I didn't like it. So we got a 10 foot here. We got 4 here. And we have 100 and 100. So we found those key numbers. Then we have to underline the question. Usually the question is at the end, and for this it says write an equation to determine the number of years y it will take for the tree to grow. So when it says write an equation to determine, that's what we don't know. So we don't know what the variable, which is y years. How many of those? We don't know. Trying to figure it out. All right, next, line up a plan. When we're lining up a plan, we're going to box that keyword. I'm going to highlight it blue instead. So keyword here is each. So it's 4 feet each year. That's my keyword. And with my keyword, if it's 4 feet each year, I don't know the number of years, so that's like my 4y right there. And then when we're lining up a plan, you can look at your summary sheet and be like, oh yeah, this is a two-step equation. My two-step equation is the A plus B equals C method. Well, A, that's my starting point. So how much do they start with? Well, the tree starts at 10 feet, so it starts 10 feet. Then my B, that's my increase or decrease, right? My each, and I've already figured that out. My increase is 4 feet each year. So my B is plus 4y. And then last is my total, which is my C. How tall is the tree going to be at the end? Well, at the end, we're trying to figure out how long it's going to take for it to be 100 feet. So that would be my equation. Now that I've set it up, I'm going to go ahead and solve. Trying to get the variable by itself, so I need to get rid of what's next to the variable, which on this side is this 10. So to eliminate it, I'm going to subtract 10 from there. Whatever I do on that side, I have to do on this side. 10 minus 10 is 0, so it is gone. And I am left with 4y is equal to 90. Now, I'm trying to get that variable by itself, so my next step is to divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I just have y. And 90 divided by 4 is equal to 22.5. So I'm saying if y is equal to 22.5, what am I saying? I'm saying it's going to take 22.5 years for that tree to grow. Does that make sense? Yeah, we want to see it's going to be 100 feet. Probably won't take 100 years. Am I really sure? How can I check? Well, to check, you guys can always, when you're examining, you can always just put the answer back into the equation. So that would mean, does 10 plus 4 times 22.5, does that equal 100? Yes, so then my answer makes sense. And what does my answer even mean? It means it's going to take 22.5 years to grow to 100 feet. It's a tall tree. All right, hopefully you got all this down, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, let's try this next problem. This is set up as your ABC model. The other one was a solve strategy where you figured out what you needed. This is a direct step-by-step layout for you. You're going to have to figure out what works for you. Maybe ABC, maybe solve strategy. Maybe you're like, I've done this enough time, I can just look at it and figure it out. Whatever you got to do, if you're getting the right answer and you know what the question's asking, that's what matters. So let's try this one using ABC. Matt has spent 40 minutes practicing math skills on IXL. He plans to study for 20 minutes each night. Write an equation to determine the number of nights N Matt must practice to achieve his goal of completing 200 minutes of practice. So the first thing is we need to define our variable. Well, our variable is what we are trying to figure out. What don't we know? Well, it says write equation to determine the number of N nights Matt must practice to achieve his goal of practicing 200 minutes. So do we know how many nights he has to do it? No. So that's my variable. My variable is N for nights because I don't know how many nights. All right, now next is what do I start with? What is the amount that I start with? Well, Matt has spent 40 minutes practicing. So what has he already done? He's already practiced for 40 minutes. So my A is 40 minutes. Okay, now we're at B. My B is how much I'm increasing or decreasing by what is happening over and over again. Well, to find that, those keywords per every each help me do that. So I'm going to make it easy for myself and just find that word each. So each night, nights, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What's happening each night? 20 minutes of practice. Well, 20 minutes of practice, that's an increase. So I know I'm increasing by 20 minutes each night. How am I going to write that in math terms? That's going to be 20N. It's a positive increase of 20 minutes every night. Next, I'm going to do my C, which is my final amount. What is my goal, or what is the total? Well, what am I supposed to end with? Well, at the end, I need 200 minutes of practice. So what is the end or the final amount? When am I done? Once I've got 200 minutes. Now that I've identified the important part of the equation, I can set it up and solve. So first is my A, which is 40. Then I have my B, which is plus 20N. And then my C is my total, which is 200 Now that I've set up my equation, I can go ahead and solve to determine the number of nights needed to practice. So, friendly reminder, you guys, if I have 40 plus 220n equals 200, that is the exact same equation as 20n plus 40 equals 200. It's a little messy. Let's fix that real quick so you can actually read it. They're the same equation. The only reason I'm telling you this is like sometimes seeing it this way makes more sense to people, but it's still the exact same steps you're going to take. We're still trying to get the variable by itself. So looking here, I'm going to just use this one. I want to get 20n on this side by itself, so I'm going to subtract 40 here, subtract 40 here. When I do that, I am left with 20n is equal to 160. Now, if I want to get the variable by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 20. And I'm left with n is equal to 8. So what does that mean? It's going to take 8 nights. Make sure this is all in your notes before you move on to the next problem. Okay, this is your last page of notes. You can see now that there's no solve strategy, there's no ABC. This is just for you to determine what works for you. You can pause the video, try them on your own, come check the answers, follow along with me, whatever your heart desires. So, Miss Pricing is taking her math student snowboarding. It will cost her $300 for the bus and $60 per student. Miss Pricing spends a total of $1,200. Write an equation to determine the number of students Miss Pricing took snowboarding. All right, here we go. So, I don't know, ABC sticks best with me, so I'm going to just put that over here. I did not mean to rhyme like that, but I did. So, A plus B plus C. So, I know that I start with a 3. Oops, that doesn't really help if I cross it off, does it? I start with a $300 cost. All right, so first I spend $300. All right, then I spend $60 per student. If I see right here, I have that word per. That helps me know that's my variable. Plus, it's also asking me to determine the number of students. That's what I don't know. But I do know that it costs $60 for every one of them. So it'd be 60 times S, because it's $60 per student. And then in the end, how much do I end up spending total in the end? $1,200. So I've now set up my equation. Now that I have done that, I can go ahead and solve to figure out the number of students I am taking snowboarding. Sorry, there's not a ton of room here, so if you have bigger handwriting, please feel free to use your whiteboard or write on a scratch paper next to it. Sorry about the lack of space. All right, now here we go. Let's find out how many students. First, I'm going to subtract 300 from both sides. Once I do that, I am left with 60S is equal to 900. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 60, and I'm left with S is equal to 15. So I took 15 kids on a trip with me snowboarding. I am crazy. So 15 students. If this is too fast or too slow for you, remember, you can pause as you need to, write down as you need to, fast forward, rewind, whatever works for you. Just get the information down in a manner that makes sense for you. All right, next one. Angel's having friends over for sushi. It cost him $30 for the delivery and $8 per roll. Angel forgot to leave a tip. After ordering, Angel and his friends will have spent $70. Write an equation to determine the number of our rolls Angel and his friends ordered. All right, so I don't know how many rolls. That's what I'm going to try to figure out. But I do know that it is $8 per roll. So I know that's what where my variable is going. Okay. Angel's having friends over for sushi. It costs him $30 for delivery. Well, delivery happens only once. So I got that $30 plus it's going to cost me $8 for every roll. I don't know how many rolls. Remember, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I know that I spent $70. When I say I mean Angel. All right, now that I have my equation, I'm going to go ahead and solve. Subtract 30, subtract 30. I am left with 8R is equal to 40. Divide by 8, divide by 8. R is equal to 5. So 5 rolls were bought. Okay. All right, last but not least, again, follow along, pause and do your own thing, whatever makes you happy. Piper and her friends spent $500 total at a pizza place. They left a $75 tip and each pizza cost $25. Write an equation to determine how many pizzas Piper and her friends bought. Okay, well, this one's written a little differently, so I'm kind of digesting it a little differently. First thing it said was they spent $500 total at the pizza place. Okay, so I know that the total that they spent at the end of everything was $500, so it's going to equal $500. They left a $75 tip. Well, a tip only happens one time, so that's the starting cost before they bought their pizzas. So it's $75. And then it's plus, well, we're trying to figure out how many pizzas, right? And we know there's that fancy word, each pizza costs $25. So that means to get to the total amount, I spent $25 every time I bought a pizza. But I don't know how many pizzas I bought. So this is the equation to figure out that unknown, which is how many pizzas were purchased. Right? So let's get after it now that we set it up. Two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 75. I'm going to subtract 75. How do I know that 75 is the number that I'm subtracting? Because the variable is not attached to it. We are undoing that addition or subtraction first. It doesn't matter the order. You're trying to get rid of the numbers that are not touching the variables, those addition and subtraction, before you look at the multiplication and division. So when I do that, I am left with 25p. Oh, kind of messy. So we got 25p is equal to 425. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 25. And I'm left with p is equal to 425 divided by 25 is equal to 17. So dang, Piper is nice. She bought 17 pizzas. All right. Hopefully you have all this in your notes and you will be ready for your formative quiz tomorrow, or Monday, that is.